I think men and women bring hugely different things to electoral politics. I think in so many different ways. I think women organise differently. They organise much more collectively, much less hierarchically. They look for consensus.
Women very often bring things to politics that men have not thought of. I think women tend to look at things in greater detail. They look at the minutiae of actions and perhaps look at the disadvantages and the advantages in greater detail.
I believe women bring a very common sense approach to politics and a very practical way of doing things. Certainly when people approach me, I'm very honest with them and I won't tell them that I can do something that I can't do. And I believe that is a trait that women actually have and possess, whereas sometimes our male counterparts sometimes think they can do more than maybe what they're able to do within the parameters of their work.
We do have different approaches to politics. I think women tend to be less adversarial, which is no bad thing. I think sometimes our politics is who can shout louder than the other, and it's completely unnecessary. But as well as that, I think some of the issues raised by men and women tend to differ. Women focus more on things like childcare, which shouldn't be a women's issue, but they are. And so sometimes I think women are more likely to raise those important issues for families. But as well, I think, if you have a better mix of people in a room, you come to a better decision, and studies after studies show us that.
I believe that you get a better variance in how people do politics when you have women there. I have found that women are team players. Women are the people who will stick at the table. I call them like Jack Russells, don't let go. They'll sit at the table, they'll negotiate, they'll keep things going, they'll persuade people, they'll get people wondering. Men can sometimes, and I know it's a bit stereotyping, can be, if we're not doing it, that's it, up and walk away. Women aren't like that. They go, hold on, let's work through this. Let's a bit of give and take. And that's, in Northern Ireland, we need that in our politics more than ever, because throwing the head up and being polarised is not going to take us forward in Northern Ireland. What we need are people who can work together, and I think having a female dimension to that negotiation is vital.
You don't leave who you are at the door. If you do, you're fake. Well, I really don't think you should be in politics then. So everybody comes with their own personal story and their own personal experiences. And I think that if you have a room of people and they're making big decisions that affect every single aspect of our life and they're homogenous, then how can they possibly understand what it's like for other people in society that haven't lived their life or fit into their worldview? So I think it's very healthy to have as many different people as possible feeding into a discussion and making decisions. I think there's strength in diversity. I don't see it as a threat. So certainly I think that the more women that you can get in politics, the more people from a whole range of different backgrounds that reflect our actual society, the better. In all honesty, I've never actually been aware of my gender. I have always just been Nicola. And I was never brought up to be aware that I was a female, and because I was a female, there were certain stereotypical roles or anything like that. So my gender was never really part of my identity until I really became a counsellor, and some of the other counsellors would refer to me as that wee girl. And at the start, I was a wee bit taken aback by this, and then I started to feel a bit aggrieved by it. And then when I became Lord Mayor, my gender hit home really strongly. So at the very beginning, when my husband and I would go to some events, even though I was wearing the chain, they would look past me to Brendan and be like, hello, Lord Mayor. And then he would be like, no, yeah, it's her. And one of the first questions I was always asked was, are you married? Do you have children? And an awful lot of interest in my public appearance. So what I was wearing, where I'd maybe got the dress that I was wearing, where I went and got my hair done. And all of those things, I felt, people weren't being malicious. They were just genuinely interested. But in the same sense, those questions were never asked of a male when he was Lord Mayor. And what really brought it home to me was when the Queen came. And so I hosted her for lunch in City Hall, which was a huge deal. And I had written my own speech and had sent it over to Buckingham Palace, and we were told the Queen wasn't going to speak on that occasion. But long story short, she decided that she would respond. And so I quoted her grandfather and she quoted her grandfather back to me. And one newspaper here didn't even mention that I spoke, just did a piece on the dress that I was wearing and actually sourced it from the shop that I'd got it in. And that really annoyed me because it overlooked the fact that you had a young, confident female with an older female, like the Queen, that were making public speeches to each other, and it was just all about what I was wearing. So it just airbrushed me out of it, and it was almost like I was a clothes horse. And I really felt very aggrieved by that, I have to say. And that's something that stuck with me. And I had a wonderful experience as Lord Mayor. I absolutely loved it. But it just hit me like a ton of bricks that in no way would that have ever happened if it had been a man in the role. It never would have happened.
If we enable women to understand that it's their politics, it's their voices that need to be heard, then they will be involved in politics. I had no intentions of being a politician, but I got annoyed about a playground. My voice was heard and I went, stuff this, I'm going to keep this going. In my lobbying role with transport, I saw how I could affect change. I could get budgets, I could get money, I could change policy by simply stating facts and having my voice heard. Now, a lot of women don't think that they have that voice. But if you can tell a child no, that they're not getting those sweeties, then you can tell other politicians to change their minds. Women are fantastic negotiators, and I believe that the more women we have coming forward, the more voices that we have for women, then the stronger our politics will be. And that's why I find it vital, absolutely vital, that we have more women brought forward.
I think we need more role models, and we need to engage with young people at an early age. We need to encourage young people to engage in civic society and to recognise that they can make a real difference if they enter the political arena. Politics in Northern Ireland has been very difficult, obviously coming out of very difficult circumstances with the conflict that has taken place over the last 30 years. I don't believe women should be there just in politics because they're a woman at all. I believe you should be there because you're capable of doing the job and that you are able and have the desire to see change. So I'm not a believer in token women. I'm a believer in capable politicians, driven women who want to see real change, because we all have different skill sets that we bring to the table. I'm a grafter. I'm someone who works hard in the community, and that's a skill set that I possess, and that's what I try and utilise, and that's what the party recognise me for, and certainly that's something that I will continue to do going forward.
I think we need quotas to get more women into politics. I know they tend to be divisive, and I've had people say that you should only make appointments on the principle of merit. Well, we only ever seem to talk about merit when it comes to women. And I don't view quotas as a form of discrimination, as has been said to me. I think they're just correct existing discrimination. And for me, quotas are absolutely the best way to break up, I suppose, circles of power and to change institutions quickly. Even as a temporary measure, I think quotas are the way to go.
Well, as long as it's so adversarial and so bitter, many women say to me, I have better things to do. I'm going to stay with a day job where I can see a good outcome when I go home at night. I'm not one of those that's anti-political parties or anti-political representatives, because I've been there and know how hard it is. I think it's through schools, through education, through saying this is a good profession to be in. How often do you hear that? Mostly it's be a lawyer, be a doctor, be a journalist, be something. But you don't actually hear somebody at school be a politician. Whereas in other countries, that's normal to adhere to that. First thing you'll see is all in other countries is interns working in parties with a view to eventually becoming a political representative. Though there are more now engaging in all of the parties, And I think the parties are realising that themselves, that they have to pass the baton on.